You can use Midjourney to generate whatever image you want. The better the models, the better the creations, the better mistakes the AI is making.
He sips his overly expensive mediocre coffee before starting his sermon.
So a couple months ago, I gave my cousin a task. Basically, I was given photos of close to 500 different products, and I had to remove backgrounds from each of those products and do a clean cut and remove backgrounds so that those products could be used in the Shopify store. So I had the task, but I didn't want to remove backgrounds from 500 different products. It was a tedious one. And so instead, what I did, I showed my cousin, I recorded a tutorial in Photoshop on how to remove backgrounds. Since it was a tedious task, I wasn't going to do that. I had better things to do. But so I thought, you know what, I'm going to hire my cousin, give him some money, and teach him how, and in the process, teach him how to use Photoshop a little bit or certain tools of Photoshop. So that means he needed to learn how to use the lasso tool in Photoshop. He needed to master selection tool. That was it. When I gave him the task, I told him, look, I needed to remove backgrounds, and these are the tutorials. Learn it in Photoshop and do the tasks in Photoshop, and easy money for you. And he's like 11, 12-year-old boy. Yeah, all I needed to give him was like $20 of Roblox gift cards, and that was it.
Exploiting young kids, I see.
What was interesting, when I gave him the task, he said, look, does it matter what I use? I said, no, it doesn't really matter what you use, but I would prefer that you use Photoshop instead of any other softwares because I want you to learn the Photoshop, which is the industry standard. 12-year-old boy, he said, look, at the end of the day, all you need are perfect product shots of those photos. And I was like, yeah. And then I was kind of hesitant. I didn't really want him to use anything other than Photoshop because Photoshop is an industry standard. And, he could use his skill of Photoshop in other things, not just that one. I said, look, it's not going to take you that long. It's probably going to take you like one full day or maybe 2 days. So in 6 hours, he sent me PNGs of those product shots, perfect product shots with the backgrounds removed. And I was like, okay, that's great. He uploaded them on Google Drive, sent me the link. It's like, okay, that's great. So I said, okay, what did you do? And he said, look, I have used an online tool that is available where you can actually easily remove backgrounds. And I was kind of pissed because he was actually taking the shortcut, but he wasn't actually putting the time in learning a tool that he actually needs. He was just using a shortcut.
I would still go for shortcuts.
So I was like, well, what's the point of hiring you? Because if I could do it myself, I could just go to the tool, do a batch upload of 500 of those images and, have backgrounds removed from all of them. That's basically what he did. What ended up happening is that he did not end up learning the tool, the Photoshop tool. He gave me 500 of those images. And out of 500 of those images, there were close to about 80 images, 70 to 80 images that needed fine tuning. That means I had to go to each of those images one by one because the AI did not do a good job, because the AI does a good job if the product and the background has a higher contrast. So it can easily detect the edges of the product and easily separate the background from it. But if the product photos did not have a higher contrast, it struggled in removing the background and separating the background from the product. So what ended up happening, there were bleeds of the background in the product photos that were actually supposed to be used as the final PNGs. So I had close to 70 to 80 PNGs that needed to be redone, manually redone in Photoshop. So I asked him, you know what, why don't you do it yourself? Why don't you learn the tool a little bit? I'm going to pay you a little bit extra.
It's called forced child labor.
Okay, instead of paying $20 in Roblox gift card, I'm going to pay you $30 in Roblox gift cards. And what you will have to do is manually go through 80 of those images and then do manual selection and cut them and export them into PNGs. You won't have the background, and you'll learn something. He didn't end up doing it because he wanted to take the shortcut. I ended up manually cutting those product photos, product images, separating them from the background. I had to do those. What's the moral of the story? What am I trying to get at? Actually trying to get at is that, these new people who are, for example, who are not artists, who are not programmers, who are, who actually haven't learned the fundamentals of how to do something, but instead what they have done, they have adopted AI, which is cool, which is great. They have adopted AI and they try to make a product, or they try to make a service, or they try to make an art, or whatever it is. What ends up happening, they can mass produce something, but those things cannot be replicated in that same style or in that same fashion or in that same criteria and mass produced. I shouldn't say mass produced, I should say, or can be scaled up to form a business. People like those who have adopted AI and they think that they can offer a service just by adopting an AI software, they will be at the very bottom of the, let's say, if you put everything in a hierarchy, they will be at the very bottom of the hierarchy. So far, at this stage, at this point, people still need to learn the professional tools. They can't just have the AI tools all by themselves or make a fine-tuned product because it hasn't still happened yet. So what would happen if the professional artists who have actually gone through the process of learning the tools, learning the fundamentals, they are still far ahead of any other people out there who have just adopted AI and don't know how to use those professional level tools. Let me give you an example. You can use Midjourney to generate whatever image you want. It's great. Now the models are being upgraded and being trained almost every month. Okay, there's a new model that's being released, that's being coming out. And the better the models, the better the creations, the better mistakes the AI is making. Still good. But what ends up happening if someone who has never used, for example, let's say Photoshop or any of those industry standard tools, they don't know how to fine tune each creation or remove the mistakes. Let's say the AI was able to generate one whole image, but there could be, if you zoom in, there are 2 or 3 different mistakes, or there are a couple of style discrepancies. So if you want to deliver those products to your client, or if you want to use those in your storytelling aspect or in your project, you can't really do that in a professional level. You probably can get away with those in social media, of course, because, it's social media and it's like if you're just mass producing things, that's fine. But if you actually want to use those assets, you need to make sure the style are consistent, and also you need to make sure that there are no discrepancies, there are no mistakes, there are no those obvious AI blobs or obvious image morphs that give away the fact that it was generated by AI. You understand what I mean? You can't remove those mistakes if you don't know the professional level tools. So the lower level AI artists or whatever those people in Fiverr who are providing AI artwork services, they're not really that good because they don't know how to use professional level tools. They don't know how to curate and craft their products in a way to fit their clients' needs. That separates them apart from the professionals. So there's a massive advantage for the professionals who actually know the fundamentals and who have actually gone through the training and who have actually learned those skills and have years of experience. Those professionals would massively benefit adopting the AI because what they would do, they would act as a director, they would act as a composer. So they would take the generations by AI, they would take those and they would fine tune it. They would remove the mistakes, they would remove the discrepancies, they would modify those creations. So it could be a code, it could be a piece of artwork, it could be an image or whatever. They would modify those. And once they have modified those, then once it's ready for shipment or to be used in the production pipeline, then they can easily deliver or hand it off to the next person. But a beginner level artist, a beginner level AI adopter won't be able to do that. That's what separates the pros from the noobs. Let me give you another example. There is this AI tool that I just heard, which is called the Bolt. And what it does, you can prompt Bolt to generate you websites. So you don't really need to design the website. You can just prompt Bolt, generate websites, and it does it for you. 80% of the time, it does a better job of making the bulk of the website. Okay, fine, that's great. Now you can go and try to provide a website development service to your clients. But what's going to happen, you would get 70 to 80% of the work done. You would be able to build a design and stuff like that. But then if your client says, hey, I actually want the color of the search bar to be changed from black to blue. Now, in order to do that particular task, you need to get into the nitty gritty. You need to know how to change the underlying code of the website. And if you have never dealt with JavaScript, if you've never dealt with CSS, you wouldn't know how to turn the color of the search bar. AI is still not perfect. AI is still relying on you with direction. You still need to be able to direct AI in the right direction that you're going forward. You probably need to go from this point to this point. AI is not going to do a good job in going from this point to this point in a straight line. It's always going to be deviation. So every time AI deviates from the certain goal or from the path, you need to be able to redirect it and modify its direction into the right destination that it's supposed to go. That's where currently this is where the creative process lies. Here's a problem that I have been facing with some clients. Some clients think, oh, why am I paying you so much? Because if I can just use AI to do my service, I'm like, it's like saying, why should I hire a professional photographer if I could just rent a DSLR camera, or if I could just rent a professional camera and just do it myself? Even if you have a professional camera, even if you have a 4K cinema camera, you won't be able to achieve the final result, the final product that a professional photographer or a professional cinematographer will be able to do. A professional photographer or a cinematographer can do a better job with an iPhone than someone with no experience in photography or cinematography can with a professional gear. It's like the same thing. So AI is just a tool. So whenever clients try to give me this objection, it's like, well, why do I hire you? Because, I can just, get AI to do it. I give them this analogy. I'm like, well, sure, you can, but you're going to come back to me because the final product that you are expecting, you don't know how to direct AI. You don't know how to prompt AI to come up with the final product. So what AI is going to do, AI is going to save you time and it's going to save you money. Instead of me having to do all the manual labor, the tedious labor myself, I will let AI do a heavy lifting and I will be responsible for the fine tuning and the overall direction of where the AI is going. That's what I will be responsible for. And I don't even think you should even talk about AI with your clients. What tools you use, whether you use AI or not, it doesn't really matter. That shouldn't be the client's concern. The client's concern should be whether they are getting the right product, the right service that they have hired you for. How good of a job you do, how close of a job you do in bringing their vision to life. That's what matters, right? So it's more about quality and less about quantity. Or if client is like, yeah, that's exactly what I aimed for, that's exactly what I was going for, then yeah, you probably did a good job because you're totally focused on the macro instead of the micro, right? Big picture stuff of where the story is being led. So don't just rely on AI tools. Learn the necessary pro tools. You don't have to learn all of it. Learn the necessary pro tools so that you have full control. That's what you should aim for. If you are using AI, the only thing that you should be aiming for is that whether you have full creative control or not. Creatives, people who are using AI, need to have full control.